This is the WOKV Ask the Experts Weekend, discussing things that matter most to you. Local experts answering your questions. Call 855-765-1045. That's 855-765-1045. Now, the Consumer Law Hour with Eddie and Chuck Farah.
Good afternoon, Jacksonville. You are listening to Consumer Law Hour on 104.5 WOKV. Our lines are open. 855-765-1045 gets you through to our legal experts, Chuck and Eddie Farah, available to take your calls right now. My name's Scott Young, sitting in with you again for the weekend. Chuck, Eddie, how you guys doing today?
Hey, Scott. Good to hear.
Hey, Scott, we're holding up.
Oh, my goodness. The audio quality on this is amazing.
Yeah, we're at a podcast studio over here on the south side. It's a really nice little room, but we still sure miss being with you guys over there.
I appreciate that, man. Who knew the numbers were going to take a jump the way they did? It's just turned the whole state kind of topsy-turvy, and it's like we took one step forward, got punched in the face, and knocked 5 feet back again.
Don't worry, man. As you said, we'll get the band back together again.
Looking forward to it. Well, what's going on today, guys? What kind of new legal exciting stuff you got for me?
You know, we've been kind of hit and miss on our radio show. We really miss being here every Saturday, but it's been so difficult with us not being able to get in the studio. But now it looks like we got a place to where we can run a show that where we can hear our callers and kind of get a little bit of a vibe going. But we've had a lot of calls at the office about people not wanting to go to work because they don't want to expose themselves to the coronavirus, and whether they can do that if out of their own personal safety they refuse to go to work. Well, you know, we've talked about this before, and we're really, you know, we're not really labor lawyers here. We're a personal injury firm, but you know, we've asked around, and we kind of know. I mean, most people understand that Florida is an at-will state, which means that you can be fired for anything as long as you're not violating the law. As long as you don't violate Title VII of the Civil Rights Act, your employer can tell you, you don't come to work, you don't have a job. The rights you do have are, you know, you can't be discriminated against based on race, religion, color, national origin, sex, or violating the Family Medical Leave Act, or if you're like a whistleblower type situation. Other than those categories, if you tell your employer, I don't want to come to work because I don't think it's safe there, you don't have enough distance, you don't have enough masks, you don't have enough, sanitizer around, none of that means anything. You don't go to work, he can tell you you don't have a job, and there's nothing you can do about it. So that's the law in a nutshell.
And you may have some rights under a contract. If you've entered into an employment contract, the contract would dictate what your damages could be and, you know, what you could recover. And
but generally, if you don't have an employment contract, then you're an at-will employee, and basically anything goes except for those categories I just mentioned.
Now, say, though, you're concerned about the risks that you may feel in the situation. Is there a way by which you can demonstrate that a harmful or a potential risky situation has been generated by a workplace? Is there a process that you go about for that if you feel that there is an actual bona fide concern?
You mean like a hostile work environment or something like that?
Not even necessarily that, but say there's a circumstance by which you're exposed to certain potential contaminants, or, you know, maybe in order to get to your job, you have to go through a certain toxic neighborhood or something to that effect. Is there some way you can demonstrate that there is cause for concern that doesn't give you an entitlement or protection?
No, I don't think so. Under this at will, I mean, unless you're violating one of the Title VII, rules.
Sorry, kids, asked and answered.
Yeah, but the thing about it is also, even on a workers' comp claim, let's say you go to work and you say, oh, I contracted the virus at work, I want my workers' compensation benefits. I mean, that's going to be very difficult to do because you can get the infection from anywhere. I mean, if you're going to bring that claim against your employer, you're going to have to be able to prove you contracted the virus at work. And I'll tell you, some of the states, even like Alabama, they're considering laws that are going to protect the employers from any kind of legal liability due to the coronavirus. So the big money is at work right now, lobbying the legislatures to give employers and to give the big companies basically immunity from these coronavirus suits.
Yeah, I know that some states have already protected the healthcare industry by giving like doctors and dentists healthcare professionals immunity from their clients who may contract the virus. So, I mean, they can't. I mean, there's no immunity if they commit negligence in performing a procedure. But if there's a COVID virus that somebody gets from being in the doctor's office, they're immune from any liability.
Yeah. So that's what's on the. I don't know. Has that been passed? I mean,
in some states, I'm not sure.
Not in Florida. I know. Yeah. I don't know where it has.
Other states.
Okay. I
know.
I'm not aware of that. But
I know Arkansas passed that law.
All right. Well, maybe and Alabama's considering it, and maybe by now it's been passed. This was a couple of weeks ago. I was reading about it, but yeah. So that's kind of the corona. That's what we kind of know about the corona situation right now in terms of the legal stuff. Workers' compensation. You not wanting to go to work because your employer's not making it safe for you to go to work. You really don't have much to work with there. But hopefully, most employers are doing the right thing and trying to protect their employees because protecting their employees protects their business too. I mean, it works for everybody. But if you want to, anybody had any questions about that, we'll be glad to take them. But I want to move on to, it's the summertime. A lot of kids are around the pool, a lot of swimming pools. And, we see it all the time. You turn on the news during the summer and some kids falls in the pool and, and ends up drowning. But in Florida, or I think in the entire country, drowning is the leading cause of death of children under 5 years of age. So that's the leading cause of death of kids under 5 is drowning. And that's why Florida has some pretty stringent rules when it comes to swimming pools. And it even applies to above ground pools. So don't think just because you have an above ground pool, it's not built in, that you don't have to comply with the laws, but you must have barriers to prevent children from gaining access to the pool. That's a barrier. It must be a self-closing or self-latching gate, along with other detailed requirements. So you should go online and actually look up what's required of you as a homeowner or as a tenant. You got a pool in your backyard, even if you're renting the house, of what you've got to do to protect kids from getting into the pool area. And it even extends. I saw some cases where people were being sued because they had these above ground pools and the pump was on the ground and the kids were climbing on the pump to get in the pool. So that's how that happened. So they thought they were in compliance. They had a fence and all. They had a barrier or something. But what the homeowner didn't think about was, well, if I put this motor next to the pool, kids can climb on it and jump in the pool. Right. So you've got to.
I think these above ground pools now require. Do they have retractable ladders so that they don't hang down permanently?
Those ladders are
the ladders. Yeah.
So it's not just you think you just have a gate, you're protected, but not. You've got to have other. You got to prevent access to a kid, and so. A lot of people, and I hear this argument when we have these, people always try to, whenever it happens, it's the worst thing that could happen to a parent, as we know. But the parents, a lot of times, try to blame themselves. They, how come I wasn't watching my kid? And even the insurance companies will try to argue, well, we're worried, what were you doing when the kid was walking around the pool area? But, if you look what the Red Cross wrote about that, they understand, and it's understood, that parents cannot watch every movement the kid makes. I mean, it's just natural. It's impossible unless you got them on a leash and you're walking around with them everywhere they go. So the law understands that. That's what's beautiful about the law. It takes into account human nature, and we're all humans. And so we know as a society that kids are going to get out of sight. Kids, I mean, what parent hasn't lost their kid somewhere, either in a mall or at an event?
And there's no animal faster than a kid that you said no to.
Yeah, that's true. You're right about that, Scott and Mo. And and so anyway, so the law understands that. I mean, I as a parent, I remember my kids disappearing for times, and trying to find them at the mall or at Disney World. It's going to happen. How many times they get lost at Disney World? So I mean, so it's understood. So don't as a parent, don't. I mean, we don't want this to happen, but the law just said you want to watch them. But if you have a pool, you want to take every precaution you can and go online. What I mentioned just now are just some of the basics, but Florida law goes into detail about what's required to protect yourself, protect your kids away, and your neighbors and everybody else when it comes to that.
Yeah, kids can disappear really quickly, as they're out playing. So always be vigilant about that. And the water doesn't have to be very deep for a child to drown in either. So
You could drown in a bathtub. What are you talking
exactly. Or even one of those little kiddie pools that you have sitting around outside for those people who aren't in a position to own an actual large installed facility. So it's always, anytime you've got any kind of a water fixture around and the kids are involved, make sure you keep an extra eye on them if you can, or pay as much attention to them and keep them away from it unless you're right there participating with them, just for everybody's safety involved.
Yeah, but even not, exactly. Well, moving on, I wanted to get into one other coronavirus issue. I kind of covered the stuff that was on my mind. There was one other thing. These cruise ships, the Carnival Cruise Lines, are getting sued because of the passengers contracting the virus on the ship. And, you go back, this goes back to the Titanic. Some people have died on these cruise ships. But if you go back to the law, the maritime law, which is very different than most, much different than personal injury, automobile accidents, medical malpractice, slip and fall. There's a particular law that relates to maritime accidents, and it's called Death on the High Seas Act, and it goes back to before the Titanic. And what that basically means is you die on the high seas, and you're limited to your value, your claims, all the claims are limited to the salvage value of the ship. So that way, when the Titanic went down and the families wanted to make claims for the people who died, the only thing left of the Titanic were the lifeboats. So that was the salvage, and so the value of the lifeboats determined what people could get. That law's still in effect, and I know people.
It hasn't really evolved.
It hasn't really changed, and that's been 100 years, over 100 years ago. And that was passed. Let me see. I think that Death on the High Seas was passed in 1920. Yeah, that was right before the Titanic went out.
Yeah.
But it's been about 100 years. And the whole idea of the law was to limit loss of physical, limit damages, limit lawsuits, and preclude recovery for mental anguish and so forth. So, and for pain and suffering. So that Death on the High Seas Act is still kind of in effect. So I started thinking about it because these people were making claims on this Carnival Cruise Line. There was a class action filed because the Carnival failed to notify and protect the passengers about the risk of exposure to the virus, and to protect the passengers. Because they're alleging in this lawsuit, this class action, that Carnival knew that this Italian passenger was infected and I guess was maybe running around the boat, and they failed to notify the passengers. And some people ended up dying, from what I understand. So I don't know. So I started looking at that, and I think this Death on the High Seas Act probably will be in effect. But not that these ships are cheap, but they'll be limited to whatever the value of the ship is.
And there's an interesting question about that also. You had the periods of restriction where the boats couldn't dock and people could get off. And does that high seas law still protect them under that particular incident?
Defenses that you'll hear in these lawsuits.
Well, you mean they contracted the virus after they got off the ship?
Or that they couldn't get the help that they needed because they were kind of just stuck out to sea.
Yeah, if they die on the ship, the Death on the High Seas Act rules. That you're governed by that,
right? But if they weren't allowed, you're limited by that. But if they weren't allowed to come and dock and get off the boat and get help because no country or no port would allow them to come into, so then you may hear Carnival say, "Well, we did everything we could do." Yeah. It was so it could be a defense to those those claims that some government or port refused them to come in.
Yeah, well,
even then, though, they'd still have been passengers on the ship, so I guess it would still be applicable.
Yeah, that law would still be in effect, but it depends what they did. Also, what Carnival did afterwards, if they didn't notify, because they want you to gamble and drink on those boats. That's how they make their money. They don't make it on the ticket. So if everybody's confined to their room, nobody's in the casino, nobody's having a good time, then they don't make any money.
Yeah, that's when you get into the discovery and you start pulling the emails and communication between the captain and the managers and the staff and figuring out what's going on.
It's just one little Italian. We can't shut down the whole ship for that.
He says he's okay. Doesn't feel anything.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, apparently opinions vary.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, fellas. So let's take a quick break.
Let's take a quick break, and we're going to get into some other stuff when we get back.
We've got lines open for your calls at 855-765-1045. If you want to speak to our legal experts, now's the time. Lines are open. Again, 855-765-1045 as the Consumer Law Hour continues on 104.5 WOKV, Jacksonville's News and Talk.
Technology is a beautiful thing. Take WOKV with you wherever you go. You'll get the latest breaking news, weather, and traffic, or your favorite talk shows everywhere. Download the WOKV app now. 104.5 WOKV, Jacksonville's News and Talk.
If your pain had a voice, it would have a lot to say. In fact, if you've recently been in a serious car accident, your pain is talking to you right now. It might even be screaming in your ear. And after 30 years as a personal injury attorney, I can tell you that pain doesn't lie, and it will absolutely ruin your life. You better get used to me, pain would say, because I'm going to be around for a while, maybe for the rest of your life. Doctors and x-rays may not be able to see your pain, and for some reason, insurance companies never believe in your pain. But we hear it. We know that the pain resulting from a soft tissue injury is real. So if you're hurt, call us. We'll make sure those responsible for your pain are listening. Farah Farah, protecting you and your family since 1979.
Call us at 396-5555, Jacksonville.
Let's say you have ED, male impotence, or maybe you suffer from PE and can't satisfy your partner. If you have either or both of these embarrassing conditions, Prime Men's Medical Center has the solution. Meet Dr. Rabinski, a specialist in men's health.
If you're experiencing ED or PE, Prime Men's Medical Center has custom blended medications designed just for you. There's no pain and no surgery. If you have diabetes, high blood pressure, or prostate issues, not a problem. If Viagra, Cialis, or Levitra have let you down, Prime Men's Medical Center has patients lasting 30, 60, 90 minutes or longer. You'll see results on your first visit guaranteed, or your visit is free. And best of all, it's affordable.
For a private consultation with our highly skilled physicians, call 904-217-5646. We guarantee that you'll see results on your first visit, or there's no charge for your consult. Call Prime Men's Medical Center now at 904-217-5646. That's 904-217-5646.
Hey, it's Sean Hannity here. And I know the business climate has changed dramatically, but if you need to sell your home, don't believe the myth that homes aren't selling. Joining me now is a true expert at selling homes, Sean O'Neill with Jacksonville Expert Home Advisors. So what's your advice on selling a home right now?
Sean, we totally understand that family should come first and does come first. We don't encourage anyone to make a bad decision, but it's important to know what your options are now and 30 to 60 days from now. Interest rates are still good, but you need to do what's right for you. We've helped thousands of families navigate through challenging markets, and we're happy to listen and help you see your options.
So what does that mean for sellers?
The real estate market is shifting, and it's local. Connect with us. We're offering to do an hour and a half of research on your home and the hyper-local market it's in, so you can make the best decision for your family.
All right, thanks so much. Look, talk to the agent that I trust for the best advice. Call Sean O'Neill today at 904-602-SOLD, or you can go online at wetrustshawn.com.
As a woman, you've spent years taking care of everyone else. When you retire, it's finally your turn. And here's a little secret. Women and men have different needs and different emotions when it comes to retirement. What to do? Listen to Woman's Worth Radio each Sunday at 10 a.m. Woman's Worth founder Jeanette Bajalia believes your retirement isn't just about the money. It's about your total health. Woman's Worth Radio, Sundays at 10 a.m.
It's for us guys, too.
Listen to Woman's Worth Radio this Sunday at 10 a.m.
Now, the WOKV First Alert Forecast.
Hot, humid, and partly sunny for Saturday with a few late-day storms. That is a 7 on the WOKV weather meter. Afternoon high, 96 degrees. It's going to be hot. A shower storm early this evening, then partly cloudy, low 74. Hot again on Sunday. It'll be mostly sunny and dry, though, high 98 degrees. Hot and humid then Monday, partly sunny with an isolated afternoon storm. Still hot, high 96. From the Action News Jax First Alert Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Corey Sima for 104.5 WOKV.
And we're back, Jacksonville. The Consumer Law Hour continues. Lines are open at 855-765-1045 if you want to speak to our legal experts. A couple of minutes before we take our news break, what else is going on in the law today, guys?
Well, we're going to switch gears a little bit, but I was talking about, I'm going to bring up something about, on the way here to the show, one of the lawyers in my office mentioned to me that Lyft, one of those rideshare companies, I don't know if Uber's done it yet, but Lyft has cut out uninsured motorist coverage for their passengers. And what uninsured motorist would cover would, if you were in a Lyft vehicle and somebody were to cause an accident, you were passing, you were injured, and the person that hit you did not have any did not have liability coverage, then Lyft's insurance policy would pay you what the at-fault driver should have paid you. And that was a very nice little benefit to have, being in a ride sharing type vehicle. That way you're protected against people who don't have insurance. And a lot of people right now are driving around without insurance. Times are tough, money's tight, and sometimes the insurance premium does not get paid. And these people are causing accidents, and unless you have uninsured motorist, then you won't be protected. So really, if you own a vehicle, and you should have uninsured motorist, because Lyft is not going to protect you. If you have your own uninsured motorist coverage, and if you're in a Lyft vehicle and somebody causes an accident, then you could use your own uninsured motorist for that accident. Of course, if Lyft is at fault, then they got liability coverage of $1 million. But you won't have uninsured motorist coverage in the event that the driver that causes the accident does not have insurance.
We should get into that a little more detail when we get back.
Yep.
That's a good idea, guys. We got to take another break as we check up on our local Fox News, local news, current weather, and traffic. And we'll be back for the second half of the Consumer Law Hour right after these messages.
Fox News, I'm Karen McHugh. Folks praying for rain across much of the parched Northeast got what they asked for, and then some from Faye.
Tropical Storm Faye has been downgraded twice since this morning, but not before she left behind a lot of rain and a lot of flooding. In New Jersey, some areas got up to 5 to 6 inches of rain. That is more than the combined total of rain Jersey usually sees in the month of July. And police in Ocean City asked drivers to avoid parts of the touristy town because flooding has already made some roads impassable. It was a scene repeated at shore towns all up and down the coast.
Fox's Laura Engel. Faye is the 6th named tropical storm this season. No jail time for Roger Stone. President Trump commuting the prison sentence of his longtime friend, who was to begin serving 40 months for lying to Congress, among other charges, during the Russia investigation. America is listening to Fox News.
We tell you the 3 big things you need to know every 15 minutes, all day. And when you're not listening to the radio, get them on WOKV.com or in the WOKV app. The 3 big things you need to know. Powered by Safe Touch Security. 104.5 WOKV. Jacksonville's news and talk.
We can't help but spend more time in our yards. It's Rich Jones. Peninsular Pest Control is using this time of year to add nutrients to your lawn. Use herbicide to control the weeds. With the kids home and the mosquitoes starting to pick up, there's always going to be the need to spray bushes. Call my friends at Peninsular today. They are so easy and fair to work with. 389-3491 for a free inspection or for the Centricon service. Call Peninsular, 389-3491, crittergetter.com. That's crittergetter.com.
Hi, it's Brian Kilmeade for Phil Aiken Home Team Keller Williams Realty. I'm talking with Greg and Gary about their recent home sale. Why did you call Phil Aiken?
We called Phil Aiken because we had heard that his team will sell your house quickly and for more money than any of the other realtors in town.
Tell us what happened.
Phil Aiken and his A team, they will make the process very easy. Sold in 4 days and got over asking price.
Well, that's great. So how did you think they were able to sell it so fast?
Because Phil has the buyers and they have the team that can get the job done quickly and stress-free.
What would you tell a friend who is looking for a real estate agent to sell their home?
Would I recommend Phil Aiken and the A team? Absolutely.
Well, the results speak for themselves, right? Phil Aiken and his team have the systems and will even guarantee to sell your home in writing or buy it himself.
Yes, we got better results than we expected.
Thanks, Gary. Friends, hire the agent with the buyers looking to buy a home right now. Call Phil Aiken. Call 500-PHIL. That's 500-PHIL, or visit philhasthebuyers.com.
As you get back to business, small things can make a big difference. like marking safe distances with floor tape and posting reminders to wash hands. As always, Grainger is here to help, offering supplies and solutions for every industry. Free access to product specialists, 24/7 support, safety recovery guides, and more. It's part of our commitment to help you adapt and recover in these challenging times. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hi, I'm Larry Birkins from Birkins Chevrolet in McClenny. And no matter what you're looking for, Birkins Chevy either has it or can get it. Whether you need a truck, SUV, or fuel-efficient family vehicle, come on. We would like to invite you to experience our world-class service before, during, and after the sale. So whether you're from GA or FLA, you should be driving a Birkins Chevrolet. Call, click, or stop by Highway 90 in the heart of McClenny or BirkinsChevy.com. Chevy, find new roads. Come on.
Now, the WOKV First Alert Forecast.
A 7 on the WOKV weather meter for Saturday. A hot and humid day, partly sunny with a few late afternoon storms. High 96. Shower storm early this evening, then partly cloudy, low 74. Mostly sunny on Sunday and mainly dry. Still hot, high 98 degrees. Then hot and humid Monday, partly sunny with an isolated afternoon storm. From the Action News Jax First Alert Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Corey Sima for 104.5 WOKV.
Now, Safe Touch Security First Alert Traffic.
Checking the Jacksonville motorways, I'm seeing a wreck or minor fender bender just off of the Roosevelt Expressway exit ramp from I-10. If you're in the area, use caution as you're making your way down. Again, this is off of the Roosevelt exit on I-10 on that exit ramp road. So use caution as you're passing through the area and make your way through safely. With Jacksonville's most frequent traffic, I'm Scott Young for 104.5 WOKV, Jacksonville's News and Talk.
The following hour was paid for by the host and does not reflect the opinion of 104.5 WOKV or Cox Media Group.
And the Consumer Law Hour continues on 104.5 WOKV, Jacksonville's News and Talk. 855-765-1045, the number to call if you want to speak to our legal experts. Chuck and Eddie Farah from the law firm of Farah Farah are show sponsors. They're our legal experts, and they're waiting on you. 855-765-1045 puts you in touch with our gurus of the law. So we were talking before the break about Lyft suspending their uninsured motorist insurance. So drivers would have to be taking care of this out of their own coverage policy now. Am I understanding that correctly?
Well, yeah, the problem is if you're in a Lyft vehicle now and somebody runs a red light and hits you, and that person who hits you doesn't have any insurance on their car, you're out of luck unless you have uninsured motorist
And remember,
coverage.
they're not required. Drivers in Florida aren't required to have bodily injury liability coverage. So they can drive a vehicle legally and not have the coverage that would pay for your injuries if they were to cause an accident. So, you've got to, the general rule of auto insurance is one of the most important rules is buy uninsured motorist coverage.
Especially in Florida.
In Florida.
Where 20% of the people don't have bodily injury.
Right. Georgia's different. They require some coverage.
They require $25,000.
Right. But Florida does not require it. And if you were to spend a week in our office, you would see some devastating injuries coming through resulting from car accidents where the at-fault party did not have any insurance and wasn't required to.
Yeah. Nothing you can do about it.
Nothing you can do.
They have PIP and PD. Nothing you can do. No recoveries unless you have uninsured motorist coverage. And the good thing about uninsured motorist coverage, if you have it, you buy it, you can stack it on top of the bodily injury coverage. So let's say the guy that hits you only has a $25,000 policy, but your claim is worth $50,000. You get $25,000 from the at-fault driver, and you get $25,000 from your uninsured motorist carrier. Right. So you're made whole. That's the whole idea of insurance, to put you back in the position you were before the accident. But we could talk hours about that and all the nightmares we see of people.
Well, I know you guys have advocated that of all the insurance options that you've got, uninsured motorist coverage is absolutely essential, that if you've got the opportunity to sign up for it, by all means do.
Scott, if you look at the payment of the cost of the uninsured motorist, it's very minimal. It's probably the cheapest part of the policy you can buy.
Right.
It's cheaper than your property damage part. It's cheaper than your PIP, and it provides the most value for your money.
Right.
Put it on uninsured motorist coverage, and a lot of the agents don't want to sell it because in Florida, if you reject it, you've got to sign. You have to have have assigned rejection. And and the insurance companies don't want to sell it because it provides so much coverage for a little bit of money. So a lot of times you'll call your adjuster, you'll call your agent and say, well, I bought a new car, I want some insurance. What do I need? Do I need uninsured motorist coverage? Oh, you don't need uninsured motorist coverage. Just sign this and I can save you some money. But you're not saving you any money, and they're putting you at risk.
Yeah.
But they don't want to sell it, and that's why you need to. And there's a reason why they don't want to sell it, because they want to save themselves some money.
That's why there's a law that says you got to sign off on not wanting it. You know, you got to actually sign a document saying that you don't want it.
But because
I'm sure that was a result of insurance companies just not offering it,
or saying you don't need it,
or you don't need it, right?
Not offering it, don't need it. It's a waste of money. A lot of time I've heard this argument. Somebody called me and said, well, I called my agent and I asked about uninsured motorist coverage. He goes, you don't need that. Don't you have health insurance? Yeah, but health insurance doesn't pay your lost wages and for pain and suffering, mental anguish, there's all kind of things that uninsured motorists will pay for that your health insurance is not going to pay for. So anyway, you want to get it if you can. Call our office. If you want us to review your policy, you can call us and we'll look at your policy and tell you if you got the right coverages or not. But moving along, I tell you, we know, President Trump has been his big thing. One of the big things. Well, there are a lot of things he's been involved in, but one thing he's really was for deregulation. He thought we just had too many regulations in the economy, governments, everybody. There was just too much regulation, and he wanted to deregulate. One of the areas he deregulated was chicken processing, and I'll tell you, I'm not really, don't know that much about chicken processing, but I did learn that the meat processing industry is one of the most common sources of job injuries in the country. As a matter of fact, the meat processing industry accounts for most of the on-the-job injuries. Wow. And according to this article I was reading, 5 times more people are injured in the meat processing industry than in any other type of work. I mean, that's over construction. I thought maybe a construction
Sure, I thought construction would lead that category.
People falling off of buildings, hurting their back, picking up some bricks or something. But no, it's the meat processing industry. And right now what Trump's done, you're capped at processing on the line 140 chickens per minute. That's what the old limit was.
That was the regulation.
Yeah, you cannot process over 140, one person, 140 chickens. Man. Well, now it's 175 chickens. He's ramped it up. So you can do 100.
Well, protract that out. That's like.
Well, let me tell you something. It's a minute. That's what I'm getting ready to tell you why these people are getting hurt. But if you're processing 140 chickens a minute, you're doing the same repetitive function 20 to 30,000 times a day.
Sounds like fun.
That sounds like carpal tunnel.
Yeah. It sounds like stress fractures.
Yeah, carpal tunnel and everything else. But he's ramping that up to 175 birds a minute. So he's opened up the,
Hey, figure if you're doing 140, what's another 25? If you're doing 140,
Yeah.
Add a couple in there.
Hey, what's another 25 chickens? You know? But I mean, no, 35 chickens, really, Chuck. 140 to 170.
35, yeah.
But that's a lot of chickens a minute, if you think about it. That's
it
like
is.
2 per second. What is that, like over 2 per second? That's some processing.
Well, it's the same old story, how the laws are always diluted against the workers' comp laws are always against the employee. Yeah. And, it's like that in this state and across the country.
Everybody thinks that, all these businesses are constrained by all these regulations that, you're going overboard in terms of protecting the employees. I don't see it. Everybody, I think it's just the opposite.
Yeah.
You read about, the feeling is, or the indication or the publicity or the news is that these workers have the companies argue all the time that, we can't make any money because of all these regulations, and really,
they're tightening it down.
It's tightening. Yeah,
they're looking to save. Save.
Well, speaking of companies trying to make some money, I've got Bruce from Mandarin on the line, and he's got some questions regarding the Uber and Lyft drivers and insurance that we were just discussing. Okay. Bruce, you're on the Consumer Law Hour.
Hey, Bruce.
Oh, thank you. Eddie, hi, Eddie. Hi, Chuck. I just wanted to make a comment on that regarding the fact that, they're not required to have the liability. Now, it's a completely different industry, but I work in real estate, and before I signed my employment agreement with my employer, I was required to show I had 350, 100 stacked insurance. And that was something the employer required that I show, and also show that they were waived if there was, that the insurance would cover them as well as me if there was an accident.
So you were
so why
required
can't
to
they
have
do something like that in the Uber and Lyft industry? I mean, I understand they're independent contractors, but technically I am too.
Yeah, but
well, the law. I think there
the
was
company you worked with is
the Florida law required, but the Florida law required Lyft to have that BI coverage.
Right.
That was required by law, unlike what Bruce is in. His employer's requiring that, but Florida law requires the million and bodily injury, but not the uninsured. They just if Lyft. Do you have uninsured motorists on your vehicle?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so you're required to have UM and bodily injury. Okay. Yeah, those are some decent limits. So you probably have an umbrella on top of that. If you've got that type of bodily injury.
I think the umbrella is held by my employer, by the company.
Yeah, so you've got the reason why your employer wanted you to keep those high limits. They can't get umbrella coverage unless you have those high limits. Like the employer probably couldn't buy an umbrella policy if you only had 50,000 in bodily injury. That's why they're making you get that policy.
Right, but I don't mind having it because it's good to have just in case it's necessary. You never know what might go wrong.
Yeah.
No, you're right. That's a good requirement. You're carrying, clients around in your car, and, you've got to protect them.
Yeah.
And it's too bad that Lyft and, Uber, I think that Uber follows suit also.
I don't know. I know Lyft's doing it.
Yeah, I know Lyft.
But the thing about it is, you 300,000. That's a lot of money. But I don't know if you go to an emergency room after an accident. If you got a neck sprain, you walk out of there with a $10,000 bill. They do a CAT scan and a couple of X-rays. You got $10,000. I mean, that's nothing. And then you're off of work and you can't work for a couple of months. This and that happens. I mean, you're down $50,000, $60,000 before you know it. So.
Well, I know your umbrella can also include uninsured motorist coverage, so hopefully, that
your employer's got that.
Yeah,
yeah, that's good. I'm glad you brought that up. You're in a little different situation than Lyft and Uber because they're governed by Florida law, but your employer's doing a good thing with that. Plus, what your employer's doing is making you protect him. You know
exactly.
That. Yeah, you're protecting your employer.
But still, it protects me too.
Yeah, it protects you and the employer. Correct. But anyway, well, I appreciate that insight, Bruce. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much, Eddie. Thank you, Chuck. I enjoy your show, so thanks.
Thanks for tuning in. But getting back to the chicken processing, the limit on, Chuck, you know what the limit is on hog processing?
Hold on.
Take a guess.
Let me
guess. It's 175 for chickens. What does he think?
35.
1,100 hogs an hour. Excuse me, an hour. Well, it's 1,100 hogs an hour you can process.
Wow.
I'm suddenly way less interested in bacon.
I've never been to these processing plants.
Thank you for that.
Scotty, you ever been to one of these processing plants? You know?
But look at it from this way. There's a lot of bacon out there.
I don't want to know.
Huh? I mean, I know. You're an investigative reporter. I thought maybe you've done some undercover work somewhere. Because, Georgia, doesn't Georgia have like more chicken processing plants anywhere in the country?
They're the chicken capital.
Well, I mean, I've done my cheeseburger research and stuff. But
anyway. He hadn't been given the grant for the other one yet. He's waiting on money to come in.
Yeah, I've got to work on a grant for that. Okay. Well...
Yeah, that's a lot of bacon.
Yeah, we had a call this week in the office where, and you've heard about them. You've seen these situations where a car leaves the road and rams into somebody's house. Ends up in their living room.
Yep.
I mean, it happens. And people. We had a call this week from a client, somebody who wanted to become a client, because this happened to them. The car ends up in the living room. The wife sees it happen, and she's very distraught about it. I mean, she can't sleep now, because it was right next to her bedroom. She was not touched by the vehicle. There was no physical contact with the vehicle and her. But she was there when it happened. The car came through. There was a loud bang. And now she's very upset. I mean, she's She has a lot of emotional distress. I mean, she's very nervous.
She's got an involuntary garage now. So
yeah.
Yeah.
She got an extra. But the thing, even though the insurance
needs a door,
there's a 4-car
installed a drive-through.
Yeah, there's your 4-car garage you wanted. But so anyway, the insurance is going to take care of the property damage, right? In that situation, the at-fault drivers. In property damage will pay for the damage to the house and all that, but she wanted to maintain a claim for the emotional distress, all the anguish, and she can't sleep at night, and she's having some problems. But under Florida law, they have what they call the impact rule, and it prevents those types of claims. So generally, let me give you another example of that. Let's say you're going down the road, you're walking your dog, you love this dog, and somebody runs over the dog. You see this happen in front of you. You're not infected. You're not touched by the car or anything. But if the dog, your dog dies, and you witness that, and you have emotional distress, well, there's nothing you can do about it. You can't claim emotional distress for that because there was no physical impact. If you had physical impact, it's different. So the reason I bring that up, there was a case recently here in Florida, kind of a really sad situation where a funeral home lost the remains of the plaintiff's miscarried baby. So this lady has a miscarriage. They wanted to have a funeral. The funeral home comes up and says, we lost it. We can't find the remains. They're gone. So, of course, the parent wants to sue for emotional, they're distraught. I mean, they just don't know what to do about this situation. So they want to sue for emotional distress. They want to sue the funeral home. And they got very ill. I mean, it was very hard on the family. But the impact rule came in, and these people filed a lawsuit, and the court threw it out, Florida law, that the impact rule is still in effect. You've got to have physical contact in order for you to make a claim for emotional distress in a negligence type situation.
Wow, that was really stretching it.
But I'll talk about some exceptions when we get back.
Yeah, there are exceptions.
For every rule, there's an exception.
Speaking of emotional impact, we've got some emotionally impactful ads that we need to run. Yeah. So we're going to take a quick break here on the Consumer Law Hour, and we'll be back with our final segment on 104.5 WOKV, Jacksonville's News and Talk.
Technology is a beautiful thing. Take WOKV with you wherever you go. You'll get the latest breaking news, weather, and traffic, or your favorite talk shows everywhere. Download the WOKV app now. 104.5 WOKV, Jacksonville's News and Talk.
If your future could talk, it would tell you that the moments that change fate are usually the moments you never saw coming. If your future could talk, it would...
I've got a caller on the line. He sounds a little... maybe cognitively impaired, but he's got a question about whether or not he needs to be on his mom's insurance policy in order to drive her car.
You understood that the moments you...
Okay, I'll bring him up when we come back in this segment.
It's precious that time has to give. If your future could, it would tell you that how you react to adversity...
and then he hung up. Oh, well.
And what comes next is never just about you. If your future could talk, it would tell you that truth is power unless you decide not to use it. If your life has been changed by an injury that wasn't your fault, your future would tell you it's time to fight. I'm Eddie Farah. Call 396-5555, Jacksonville.
Over half of all men suffer from ED or PE. Here's a message from Prime Men's Medical Center.
Hi, I'm Dr. Rubinsky. If you're not the man you used to be in the bedroom and Viagra, Cialis, or Levitra have let you down, Prime Men's Medical Center offers custom blended medications. Men are lasting 30, 60, 90 minutes or longer, and it's affordable.
Call 904-217-5646. See results on your first visit guaranteed or pay nothing. 904-217-5646.
I can give you a brand new kitchen in days, not weeks, not months. Hi, I'm Jeff Martin from Martin Appliance and Greystone Kitchens with my secret formula for your new kitchen. Quick and easy and economical. 90% of new cabinets today are painted, modern colors, crisp and clean. 90% of new countertops are granite or quartz, impeccably stylish, incredibly functional. Our secret? We swap your counters and refinish your cabinets to the color of your choice at a fraction of the cost. None of the hassle. and done in days. Call Greystone Kitchens at 213-9100 for your secret solution. Come see us on Phillips Highway across from Regal Cinema. That's Greystone Kitchens and Martin Appliance. New kitchen, new appliances. And if you want new cabinets, I can do that too. I'm a licensed contractor, for crying out loud. Florida State License CGC 1526479.
What you see is what you get. Martin Appliance Family.
When you're stressed, you just don't feel like yourself. New Natrol Relaxia, a full line of drug-free supplements to help you manage occasional stress and anxiety. A special blend of herbals keeps you feeling calm and balanced throughout the day. Because when there's less stress, there's more you. Try new Natrol Relaxia. Learn more at relaxiamood.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
This is a paid advertisement for legal services sponsored by attorney Andrew Van Arsdale, San Diego, California.
I'm attorney Andrew Van Arsdale. If you were sexually abused as a member of the Boy Scouts, please listen up, as this message is for you. The Boy Scouts of America have filed for bankruptcy, which means you must come forward to file a claim before November 16th, or you may lose your right to hold them accountable forever. Call Abuse and Scouting right now for a free confidential consultation.
Call 800-849-0325. That's 800-849-0325. 800-849-0325.
Now, the WOKV First Alert Forecast.
Hot, humid, and partly sunny for Saturday with a few late-day storms. That is a 7 on the WOKV weather meter. Afternoon high, 96 degrees. It's going to be hot. A shower storm early this evening, then partly cloudy, low 74. Hot again on Sunday. It'll be mostly sunny and dry, though, high 98 degrees. Hot and humid then Monday, partly sunny with an isolated afternoon storm. Still hot, high 96. From the Action News Jax First Alert Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Corey Sima for 104.5 WOKV.
We tell you the 3 big things you need to know every 15 minutes, all day. And when you're not listening to the radio, get them on WOKV.com or in the WOKV app. The 3 big things you need to know. Powered by Safe Touch Security. 104.5 WOKV. Jacksonville's news and talk.
Jacksonville, we're back for our final segment of the Consumer Law Hour. 855-765-1045, your number to call if you want to speak with our legal experts. Eddie Farah and Chuck Farah waiting on the line to help you out. Fellas, we got a couple of minutes left.
Well, you had a question from someone, didn't you?
We did. I had a question from Jeremy. Unfortunately, he couldn't hang on the line. But he had a question about whether or not he needed to be on his mom's insurance policy in order to drive her car.
Yeah, that's a very good question. And he can drive her car. The issue becomes if he's not listed on the policy, there wouldn't be any coverage for the accident if he's not listed on the policy.
If he lives with her.
If he lives with her. So what happens, what the insurance company does, even though he didn't own the car, they're going to ask his mother a question. Give me everybody that lives in your household. When you go apply for insurance, list everyone. Even if these people have their own car, even if these people, are not relatives, your premium's going to be based on how many people who lives in your household. Now, of course, you can say, my son lives with me. I want him excluded from my policy, and you can do that. But if your son's driving your car and causes an accident, there's no coverage, and you're going to get personally sued for that. So that's why they want to know everyone who's living with you, because the underwriters are going to use that information to determine the premium.
Right. You got to be upfront and on the application. You've got to tell, everyone who lives in the house, where's the car, where does everybody live? Where's the car being garaged? What address? Make sure that's all accurate. Because they'll look for ways to get out of it, once something happens.
That's a good point, Chuck. We see it all the time where the insurance company will, after an accident, you think you got coverage, you report the accident, they go back and they pull your application and they try to find an inconsistency or something that's not quite right on the application. They'll say, I'm sorry, Mr. Smith, but you didn't tell us A, B, and C, or you told us this and you didn't tell us that. Therefore, you have no insurance coverage.
Right.
You're on your own. Thank you very much. So you've got to, that application is very important, and you've got to disclose everything they ask you. If not, you probably won't have coverage if an accident happens.
Right.
So,
you're good if somebody moves in, after the application within the policy period, but when it comes to renew, that person needs to be put on there.
Yeah, if somebody moves in after the application's filled out.
I just wanted to make sure you didn't have to go back and fill out a new application.
No.
Yeah.
But you're right, Chuck. If you move in after the application's submitted, it's a different story. But if you're in that household when the application's submitted, you got to tell them everybody living there, because that's one of the main things they look at: who's in the household, because they assume those people are going to be driving the car.
Yeah, and what they'll do is they'll just, once they find out that there's an inconsistency in the application, they'll get one of their lawyers to file what is called a deck action in the court, and so a judge or a judge would determine whether there's coverage, and if there's an inconsistency, there is no coverage. So make sure you read it over and make sure it's accurate.
I mean, that's why you want to deal with agents that you trust. I know
they can guide you through. Yeah,
an agent that really is looking after your interest will make sure you're covered. Because they want there to be coverage. They're there to do a service. They're your agent. They want you to have coverage. The problem now is most of the people you talk to are over the internet or over the phone. They don't know who you are. So the days of having an agent an office you can walk into, is not as common.
Right.
That's the benefit of having an agent that
The beauty of it is they're accessible 24/7 online through a website near you. The trouble with it is you won't have that personal relationship that we used to have, and it used to be that a handshake deal was enough to get things done.
Those days are long gone.
Long gone.
Well, speaking of other things that are long gone, it's been a fun hour, but the hour's wrapped for us today. Happy that you guys have got a great studio facility that we can do a much better sounding quality show, and looking forward to talking to you again next year. Happy to have you guys back with us and doing some more fresh and frequent programming as the Consumer Law Hour continues on Jacksonville's 104.5 WOKV, Jacksonville's news and talk station.